Hello everyone, welcome, and I just want to talk today around connecting with... Better? Can you hear me well? Perfect. Okay. We're all a bit spread out, so I'll try to connect to the room, but I want to talk today about connecting with confidence, and I think it's relevant from the start of when you try to... Sorry, I'm really out of breath. I literally ran up the stairs here, so I'll try to calm my breath down. Okay. So I think it's really important from the onset, so throughout your whole job search, if you're looking for a new role, even if you're in a job, if you're starting a new career, if you are unemployed and you're trying to look for work, it's that connection piece that you're looking for. So from the moment you're handing in your CV and you are, trying to convince someone to have a connection with you, you're looking for that first call, you're looking for that interview. So it's really important to just connect with yourself, first of all. So that's my first point. So I just want to emphasize that importance of really honing in on yourself and getting to know you for who you are, what your skill set is, also what kind of role you're looking for. So when you look at past careers or even experiences in college, what were the type of experiences you really enjoyed? What were the tasks that you really like doing? What were the kind of people you really like to work with? What's the type of culture that you're looking for? What's the type of company that you're looking for? So really get to know all this information about yourself and get to know your past experience as well, so that you can really start building up a story. So when you look at your career from the start to finish, when you're looking at the role that you are moving into now, how does that link in? And where can you see your story building up? And some of you might have, a gap in your career, or you might have been out of work for a while, or you want to make a shift in your career. Just really get to know your story and why you're doing what you're doing, so that you can connect to the people that you want to engage with. So that's my next point, is get to know them. So when you think of people that you're connecting with, and if you think of the company that you would like to work for, maybe the industry you like to move in, or that you're already in, where you want to change roles, is really try to understand what they're about. What is important to them? What are their values? What are the key skills that they're looking for? What I suppose matches you with them, and really get to know the person that you're trying to speak to, because it works in steps. So when you think of your CV, all you're trying to do is to get the first call, the first screening call. When you get that first call, all you're trying to do is to get to next step, to get to the interview. So every time it's making those connections with people, and the more you know about the people that you're speaking to, the easier it will be to speak about yourself with confidence as well, and to make that match together. So I'm not saying anything that's rocket science here, but it's sometimes the really simple things that can be quite difficult to do, because we're seeing things maybe that are lacking in ourselves when we're going for a job, or we're focusing on, ourselves more, and we actually forget to look into the person that we try to connect with. So it's really good to do your research on, if you know who you're interviewing with, or if you know who you want to speak to in a company, is just to try to find as much information as possible. And it can be labor intensive in a market where, there's a lot of work to put in to go for a specific job, but it's really worth it in the end. So when you try to send your CV out to everyone and anyone, it's hard to make a connection because it's not personal. So the more you can personalize things on your CV, things in your messaging, maybe make connections with people, and also figure out who in the company would you like to speak with, or could help you maybe connect with someone else. That would be really helpful too. So try to think of, getting to know the other person rather than focusing on yourself. Ask them questions, have questions in your head, get to know more information, so that you then can connect the dots as well. So this is where you bring the two elements together. So think of you and your story, and then think of the other person. And like today, when you're here, look at companies that are here, look at the people that are here, try to find out, would there be someone that's interesting to talk to, or is there something that I can bring forward? And then when you look at your CV and all the different processes in the job search, focus on tailoring everything. And I know that it's easy for me to say, but it's really taking that amount of work, because it is challenging to compete with other people. There's a lot of other good people and skilled people out there, and I think the people who make it usually build a connection somehow. So try to really focus when you create your CV on what is the job spec asking for. Is there key skills that are on there that you definitely have to have in your CV? And when you look at the top of your CV, make a little sales pitch for yourself. So people are only going to read your cover letter once they have connected with something and they think this person might be interesting. Then they're going through your CV, and only then they're going to read your cover letter that you have put a lot of time and energy in. So, a lot of the attempts kind of go nowhere sometimes, but when it does, it really pays off. And the more you can personalize and really show your motivation and passion to work for this specific company in this specific role, you can really connect the dots then and tailor everything along the way. And then support your network. So keep in mind that when you look at your network and when you look at people who maybe work in the company in the role that you would like, is that people often like to talk about themselves. So if you, get a contact somehow, or even if you feel brave enough to just reach out on LinkedIn, reach out on a platform, ask someone a question and just ask them, what's it like to work in the company? What's your role like? What's your day-to-day like? Really try to show an interest in the other person, and that will be really supportive to you. And when you find out a piece of information that shows that you can help this person in some way, or you can offer support to someone that they know maybe, it usually comes back. It makes you feel good as well when you help someone. So if you have people in your network that you feel that maybe are in the same boat, they're also looking for a job, they're also looking to achieve something, or they're maybe looking for a job that you have contacts in, the more you focus on supporting others to thrive, it's going to give you that motivation. And sometimes we know the things we have to do, but when we give advice to others, it's easier than take it ourselves. So if you learn to, help others and then notice what is helping them, what is supporting them, offer that support to yourself as well, but make sure that you balance the two and that you leverage your network as well. So if you are showing up as really supportive, you're able to ask for support as well. And it's very important to keep motivated by connecting with others and not being out there on your own, doing it all by yourself. And then my final point here that I want to make is to really be yourself. So when you go into, even me running up here, I'm like trying to talk and I'm catching my breath and it's like, this is not working, I actually need to breathe first. It's to feel what you're feeling and not be thrown away by it. So it can, last for a few minutes, or, you might be sitting in a room before you go into an interview, you might feel really nervous, and the more you're trying not to be nervous, the more you're going to feel really nervous, and it's probably not going to go away. So make sure that you see the benefits as well. So if an interviewer sits with you, you're really nervous, what are they going to see? This person is actually really eager. They really care. They really care about making an impression on me. They care about saying the right thing, so you don't have to be afraid that you're going to ruin the whole interview because you're nervous. It's very normal to feel like that. And it's good to kind of feel into yourself and be able to be yourself as well. So it's kind of having that idea of knowing that you're speaking to someone who, might feel like it's an examinator because you're like doing a test or an exam and you have to pass to get to the next stage, which it kind of is. But on the other hand, you're sitting there in front of another human, they're a person just like you. They might actually be nervous. Interviewers might sometimes be people who, are a hiring manager. They hire people, but it's not something that they do all the time. So they might actually feel as nervous as you do. And when you identify that and kind of ground yourself in the fact that you're connecting with another person, it gives you that space and that room as well to, be yourself and show your passion. If you're really eager for a job and you're really passionate about a company, that's what they're looking for. So don't be afraid to show that. Just, be able to address things in your own story and be yourself when you meet people as well. And then I just have a few points there to kind of tie together, but good things to remember. So I don't know if any of you are going to want to ask questions or maybe bring up things, but I think it's always good to have a conversation and kind of think about, what are challenges that you have, because other people might actually experience exactly the same. And I think it's really good to find people that are in the same boat as well, and you can kind of motivate each other, support each other. When you see other people getting a job, it actually helps you because you think, it's actually possible. Someone else has succeeded, so I can maybe do it too. So the first thing I would say is go for the job that you really want. You can apply for other roles as well if you need to find work. And sometimes maybe we're in a circumstance that, we're going to find something that is temporary or, for certain reasons we can't work full-time, so we're going to do a part-time job. Or, there's reasons why you want to do this specific thing. Well, then that's the job that you really want. But I think often I see people wanting to apply for roles but thinking, I don't have enough experience, I don't have the right skills, I haven't been in the industry long enough. So there's all these reasons why they're not going for the job that they actually want, but they're applying for the job that they think they can do. And then what can happen is that you're in an interview and you might actually not show your enthusiasm or your eagerness because you're maybe not that excited about the job. So don't be afraid to apply for the thing that you really want and then put your everything into it, even though it's really scary. Think about your non-negotiables. So I think salary negotiations or, thinking about things that you don't want to do, it's sometimes challenging or maybe not the first thing on mind. But I think it can really help with your confidence if you're sure that maybe you don't want to drive this far for a job, or, there are certain things that you feel like I'm definitely not going to be able to do that. So don't apply for those roles if you know that you're not going to take them. It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy then. And have something in mind as well that you feel like, okay, that's something that I need to be earning to cover my bills only. It's just to have that confidence in yourself that these are the things that I need. So it's actually giving you more clarity then on which roles to actually go for as well. And then have accountable, actionable steps. And what I mean by that is to have accountability, even if it is with yourself. Make an action plan and make it very actionable. Make smaller steps, break it up, because if you look at a job search, it can be very overwhelming. There might be that one dream job that you see far in the distance, and there's all these things you have to do before you make it, and it overwhelms you so much that you go a week and you haven't done any of it. So break it up into really smaller steps, Work on your CV, update your LinkedIn profile, make a connection, call someone. Just have really small steps that you can look back at the end of the week and tick them off in your calendar so you can actually have some motivation to keep going as well. And then apart from that, you could have accountability with someone who is actually supporting you in your job search, and that could be family, that could be someone professional, but also think of people who maybe also are looking for work, who are in the same boat. And I know that I mentioned it before, but it's just to have that sense of, support with each other, where you know that you're not alone in this, and you can actually keep going as well. Recruiters as your ally. What I mean by that is that if you talk to a recruiter, they're actually looking for people to place into a role. So if they feel comfortable enough and confident enough to present you for a company and present you for a specific role, it means that they want you to do well. So get their support as well. If there's any questions that you have or things that you feel like, what's the dress code, or, things that you feel like they would have as information that could help you in your interview. Make sure that you point it towards, wanting to really succeed in the interview because you really want the job, but really leverage that relationship as well. Prep your unwanted questions. If there's any questions that you have in mind that you hope they're not going to ask in an interview, prepare those questions because they'll probably ask them and you're going to sit there and have no idea what to say, and you knew that this was going to happen and you knew that you didn't know what you were going to say. So if there's anything that you have in mind that could be red flags, is there a gap in your CV? Is there a certain, skill set, or is there something you're nervous about? Make sure that you really prepare answers for those questions, and then even if they don't ask them, which would be like, they didn't ask them, you still went in confident that you were able to ask all the questions that were coming to you. And be honest as well, be honest about things that you feel like you're learning, and then make sure that you're working on these points as well so you can bring that forward. And then envision yourself on the job. So think of yourself already working in the company, already being in the job. How would you act then? What would you say then? How would you communicate with people then? How would you connect with them if you're actually their team member? And then keep that in mind when you're in an interview and when you're presenting yourself. And when you're actually connecting with this person, you're going to potentially work with them. They're going to potentially work with you. You're going to want to figure out if this is going anywhere, if you actually like being there and if you feel comfortable as well. So really make that mutual connection and look at it from the other perspective. If you were them, what would you be looking for? What would you like to know about yourself? And then try to answer those questions. And then the last point I have, and I kind of already touched on that, but interviewers really do want you to succeed. They're using their time to talk to you, so it's valuable time that they're putting in you, investing in you. They're not there to test you so that you will fail, and it's like, they didn't make it. No, they're actually wanting you to be a successful candidate so that they have someone to place in the job, that they have someone to present to a job that they're recruiting for, that they have someone in their team to do the job. That's what they're looking for. They want you to succeed, so keep that in mind, is that, you want to give them all the information that you have that's going to show that you're a good match and that you can do the role as well. So, not sure how we are on time. Literally have no idea. So basically what I want to ask from you, and if you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to, but if there's any questions, or do you want to use this? Or and anyone here, if there's challenges that you have, or it might be appropriate for everyone to be of help as well.
Hi, you said that recruiters are there to help us, and I'm with a recruitment agency at the moment, and I got a new job. I started about 3 weeks ago, and somehow she kind of ditched me, and I'm not able to communicate with her, but I have a couple of questions, and I'm still looking for a new job because I'm not happy with the situations I was put into. How do I deal with that?
Can I use this? Can you hear me? Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's a really good question, actually, and unfortunately that happened. I'm really sorry that it happened, and it didn't really work out the way you planned to, and I think it's always those situations, It's broader information about how we connect, and I think it's really good to keep in mind what was your relationship with this person before, what happened along the way, what is it that makes you unhappy in this situation now, and, if you were this person, what would you like to know from you? And I think also something really good to kind of ask yourself maybe, and I don't know if you have an answer to that, but it's to what makes you unhappy in the situation that you're in now, and what would you like to know from this person, or what kind of help or support would you like to get from them? Is that something that you're very clear on?
How is that? Good. Okay. I have a question for you as well, Jennifer. You mentioned personalizing your CV. What's your top tip? And should we over-embellish a little bit on the CV. We all are kind of inclined to want to make ourselves feel better, look better. Do you think that's the way to go?
I think it's very, very important to have your CV tailored to the specific job and go all out, but make it also easier for yourself. So maybe have like a full CV where you have everything in it, all your skills, everything that you can think of, transferable skills that you have from other roles that you can think of, so that you have everything there, and then when you go for a specific role, just cut out the information that's not relevant for this role and really emphasize all the information that is relevant to this specific job. So when you think of experiences, you know, when you list off all your work experiences, you can put them all in, but you don't have to have the same amount of information in everything. Focus on the things that they really want to know and they really want to hear. And then one easy way to kind of check for yourself is to look at the job spec and basically use their language. So when you look at the job spec and all the keywords that you find, make sure that they're all in your CV. And I know that sounds really silly and it might sound like I'm not talking as myself or I'm not being myself. I'm trying to, fit in too much, but that's kind of the first step. And the first person that looks at your CV is probably not the one that's going to interview you or going to hire you, or maybe they are, but it's just like a tick box exercise. So kind of use it as that, but then have a really clear pitch on the top part of your CV. So that's kind of like, in bullet points, one paragraph that gives the best experience, the best skills, your motivation for the job, and that's kind of your way into someone reading your whole CV and someone going to read your cover letter as well.
Wonderful. Any more questions for Jennifer? Throw your hand up. I have another one. You mentioned building a connection. Can you be too impersonal when you're trying to build that connection?
I think it's challenging because, you might try, to send out messages to different people, and not everyone is going to respond, and it's not always because they're not interested, but I think we can often take it very personal if we put our heart in and then they're not replying, or they don't really want to take our call. But I think it's to keep in mind that when you do try to make a connection with someone, make sure that it's authentic, make sure that you're being yourself, make sure that you are not just messaging people asking for a job, because most likely the person is not going to have a job or is not going to be able to help you, and then they're like, oh, I can't help this person, so there's no reason to connect. So find a personal reason to connect with this specific person that you're building a connection with, and ask questions. Ask if you don't know what you're connecting on, but you really feel like this person might be interesting, ask them questions. Make it about them, and then you'll find your way in, but make sure that you come from a good place, because people feel people. They're going to know if you just want something, for yourself, or if you're actually genuinely interested in the person as well.
Thanks, Jennifer. You also mentioned the non-negotiables. Is it ever okay to mention any of these in an interview? Because I know sometimes you might get there and there might be something that pops up. But should you just prep for those beforehand, or is it okay to say, listen, I don't want to drive, or I don't want to work certain amount of hours in the interview?
Well, I think it's to really hone it down on what actually are your non-negotiables, because you have to be flexible as well. You can't just show up and be like, this is the list of all the things that I want. I think some things also happen naturally when you're on the job and you build a trusting relationship, you're good at your role, you worked your way in, you can ask for more things, but keep in mind the things that are really non-negotiable for yourself. If you have to work remotely for certain reasons, don't interview for a job where they're definitely not going to offer you remote work. It's going to be a pointless exercise, and they're going to come back to you and think, we're interviewing you, but you're not interested in doing this thing. So make sure that there's certain things that you are very clear of that you're not willing to do, but don't come in with them firsthand. So kind of, again, play it back to them and ask questions. If there's something you're unsure of, don't be afraid to ask questions along the way, because it will show that you're actually interested and you're really thinking of the role and what would be involved. So I think it's definitely important, and I think the tricky part in your question as well is like, if we say the non-negotiable, are we still going to get the job?
Exactly,
well,
yes. Will they want to hire me after saying what I don't want?
Exactly, but then it's like, if they would hire you and they do give you the job, but you don't want to do this practical thing, how is that going to work? So I think it's just to not be afraid to say no to things, even if you didn't get a yes. And it's very challenging to do that when you're in that vulnerable space of like, I need work or I need a change. And, you know, you kind of become a bit desperate sometimes to like just have people say yes to you and take you on for the role. But this is something you're going to be doing for a long time. Once they hire you for the role and once you start in the job, that's your day-to-day. That's where you're spending your time. You know, do you really want to take something on that is just not practical, you know, that makes you, I don't know, let's say commute for an hour and then pick your kids up 2 hours the other way? That's not going to work. So I think it's just to be realistic with yourself and to have confidence as well in the things that are really not going to work for you, and then go for the things that are working for you. So kind of not focus too much on the things that are not an option. Focus on where the options are, because there are many, and that's where you really should put your energy and your time in as well.
Wonderful. Any more questions? Oh, we've got another question. I'll run
We're
over.
back. Feel free to come to my table as well. We can chat more.
Basically, I was advised once that interviews are not just for the interviewer to interview us, it works both ways. So they often, at the end of the interview, ask us, do you have any questions? And people usually say no to that because they're like too afraid to say, but if we're there, what would be the most efficient or polite way to ask questions, and what should we look for? What kind of questions should we ask, actually?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think it's actually really important to have questions in mind before you go into an interview, because, like I said, it's something that you're going to do for a long time. You're going to spend your day-to-day. I know that you have questions. It's just to be clear on them before you go in, so you are prepared. And sometimes it could happen that during the interview, they kind of already answer these questions. You know, so you could say that at the end. I would just be very honest and open and say, look, you kind of answered the questions that I had already, which is great. So that makes me feel good about this. I feel confident about it. You know, and don't be afraid as well to be allowed to come back to them. So maybe make the request. If you don't have a question on the spot, say that I probably will have, you know, more questions, but we've been covering a lot, so is it okay if I come back to you if I have any other questions? I think to just give a no, it's kind of like, it's not that mutual relationship. You know, when you meet a friend or when you meet someone and, like, they're just asking you loads of questions and then you wouldn't have any question. It's not natural. It's natural to have questions. I just think it's an unnatural environment that you're in. So just keep that in mind. Prepare yourself. Write loads of questions down that you would like to have answered, and then don't ask any questions that are going to kind of make it seem like you're only focusing on yourself and what you can gain. So, you know, don't ask what's the salary, or, you know, when can I take a day off, or, you know, even those things are important, but it's more like when you're having a conversation, when you're negotiating. So just be mindful of questions that are going to make you feel like you want to know more about them, you want to connect with them, and then if there's something practically very important to you, don't be afraid to address that as well and see where that goes.
We got another question, or is that, yeah? Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jennifer van Uffelen.